Hey guys, what's going on? Drewzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video, and we have a special top 10 episode for you guys here today, because since global launch of this game, which was around November 8th of 2017, there have been exactly 10 cards. As I'm recording and posting this video, there are 10 cards actively within the game that have been added since global launch, and we're going to do a special top 10 of all those new cards, ranking them from 10 all the way up to 1 of what, in my opinion, is the top newest card added to the game thus far. Of course, there will probably be many more added as the game goes along, and I could update this top 10 as cards, maybe not as cards are added, but maybe after about intervals of 5 maybe going forward, if that's something you guys would like to see. But it's been very surprising to actually go through, look at these cards before I when I do my research and due diligence before I do these top 10s, to find out just some interesting facts about this top 10 list. Out of the 10 new cards that we have received, we got 6 range, 1 tank, 2 fighters, 1 assassin, no spell cards. There were 3 cards from in the mystical theme added, 3 cards in the neutral theme added, 2 cards in sci-fi, and 2 cards in adventure. Surprisingly, no fantasy cards have been added to this game. Is that a possible hint at the future? Because all the fantasy cards that are actively within the game right now, again as I'm making this video, have been there since the beginning of the game. That's intriguing and interesting factoids to know. Also, 3 legendary cards have been added, 2 epics, 4 rares, and just 1 common card. And everybody complains that common cards are basically dominating the landscape of this game, which in a sense they are. There are a lot of, especially common assassins, that are running rampant within this game right now. But only 1 common has been added to the mix from all these 10 new cards. So that's the stats for you. Let's actually get into this top 10 and look at each of these cards. Well, again, we're going to go from number 10 all the way up. As you see, I have started a mini deck here with 8 of the cards that I'm allowed to add because I can't have 3 themes, so unfortunately sci-fi was left out of this as well as fantasy. So there are 8 of the 10 cards here listed here on the screen, and let's just go start with number 10, see where we end up here when it's all said and done. So of course, starting at number 10, Mr. Hankey. Now, why is Mr. Hankey number 10? It's pretty simple, guys. He's not that great. First and foremost, he was the second legendary added to the game. The first one was MEDUSA BEBE, but Mr. Hankey, when he was added, there was a lot of hype around him. There was a lot of fear with his Warcry ability, which doubles the charge rate of all allies for 20 seconds. Sounds great on paper. It is very fun to use at times, situationally, but in reality, he is a 3 energy spell card. That is exactly what he is. His Warcry is pretty much all of his value. He does not do much damage. He has horrendous health. He dies basically instantly. But again, he's really fun, primarily in friendly battles, and as you've seen on the channel, and even recently in my blind deck challenge that I did with my fiance, I used Mr. Hankey with Gizmo Ike, and it worked really, really well. If he's used with certain cards, Gizmo Ike is a great example. He's a very strong card and can be useful in making your push more successful. It'll be interesting to see if any changes are made to him here going forward, but as of right now, he's the worst new card we have in the game. This is, again, my opinion, and I'm just going to put him at number 10. For number 9, we have HERCULES CLYDE. HERCULES CLYDE was one of the first cards added to the game. Him and MEDUSA BEBE came in at the exact same time, might I add. It was, I believe, the first event that we had, weekend event that we had in the game. Altogether, HERCULES CLYDE was available to us. His Warcry, he runs and hits nearby enemies with a magical force and stops their charge, which essentially means he has both Power Bind as his charge ability, and he does a basically charge attack that does a base amount of damage that scales as he levels up. Now again, I just did a card showdown with him comparing him to Space Warrior Token, but even though I put him relatively close to Space Warrior Token is a mid-tier style card in my opinion as far as usefulness. HERCULES CLYDE is right there with him. He's not the worst fighter card in the game by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are some that are worse than he is, but he's not the greatest value. He's not the strongest card out there. I think he needs some tweaking of some degree, and I don't really know what that is. I feel like there's a lot, even 3 energy cost fighters, that still have more value than he does in the grand scheme of things within the game. His Warcry ability is pretty useful. I think it's undervalued, and it is the only tool in his kit that's really worth anything. After that, in all reality, his health doesn't stack up too well for most fighter cards, and his damage is, subpar, in my opinion. I think there's just a lot of even 3 energy cost fighters, again, that are more valuable than Hercules Clyde. That's why he's number 9 on the list. Our next, number 8, is one of the newer cards added, INCAN. Now, one of the big reasons why INCAN is so far down is for his energy cost of 5 energy is pretty high for a range card. There's only one range card that's higher right now, and that is Pope Timmy, who just got an energy reduction from 7 down to 6. But still, INCAN, in my opinion, isn't necessarily worth the cost of admission, or whatever you want to call it in this scenario. His war cry sounds and looks amazing. It is one of the coolest looking animations out of any card in this game, where he shoots an enemy laser beam towards the enemy leader, damaging all enemies in the way. The enemy leader damage is 65 and 195 damage for my current level. And of course, both those will scale and go up as he levels up. So you're going to get immediate damage to the enemy leader, which is very nice. It shoots in a straight line, so it's fairly well easy to aim. And you do the damage then to any of the enemies that it passes through the laser beam. But the laser beam, in my opinion, I don't think is large enough or wide enough radius, probably to make it a little bit better. And then his damage is horrendous. His range is terrible for a ranged unit card. So for 5 energy, in my opinion, he's just not worth all of this headache. He is a legendary card, so he's hard to obtain. As of right now, he's still not available to us all in widespread availability, but that will be coming here soon, I would assume, probably within the next few weeks based on normal rollout of these style of cards in that manner. But INCAN to me still is not by any means the best range card in this game. He is fun to use, and his animation and war cry again looks awesome. It's not extremely effective, it's useful, but he could be better. Coming in at number 7 is Bounty Hunter Kyle. Now, this one might be debated by you guys. I think some of you would want Bounty Hunter Kyle much higher up on this list because of the main thing. The first word in his description of his ability essentially is he's flying. Because he's a flying unit does not necessarily mean that he's an overpowered or amazing unit. If used in the right circumstances, he can be extremely effective. He's one of the best cards for PvE or the campaign out of any card in this game, in my opinion. His ability is so good for that. It's useful in PvP as well, but not as useful, and he dies extremely easily, does not have great range, does not have good health or damage output, but his actual ability where he gives attack boost to all allies that he hits and then heals all allies when he kills an enemy is fairly useful in certain capacities. But because his attack speed isn't overwhelming, he then doesn't get that attack boost very high oftentimes before he dies, or most opponents will just poison him and he'll easily die that way, or can counter him extremely easily. Because he's so easily countered is one of the reasons why I put him so low. If he was not as easily countered, I would put him a little bit higher, and I feel like he'd be more useful at that point. He's still a good card. There's still value to him in certain scenarios, and because he's not high in the efficiency, in my opinion, in PvP, that's why I have him so low on this list. Coming in at number 6, we have TOWELIE. Now, TOWELIE is probably one of my favorite cards that was added to the game, but still not great as far as usefulness. He doesn't scale very well with health and damage like some fighter cards currently within the game. That is one of the big weaknesses for him, but at his 3 energy cost is really nice for a fighter card, and his aura is amazing. Whenever an enemy is in the range of TOWELIE, they are slowed. Now, we don't know exactly how much that slow is effect, but if you've seen it, the aura in effect in a lot of my gameplay, because I play TOWELIE in a lot of my decks, because I think he's very undervalued with his aura and his slow ability. He's also a neutral card, which means I can play him in any deck that I want to, which is also very, very nice. I'm really hoping that soon I can get him to level 4 because, again, I want to keep using TOWELIE. TOWELIE will be a staple in my decks for, years to come, however long I decide to keep playing this game, just because, in my opinion, he's so undervalued. I really like him. He's one of my favorite cards in the entire game, but as far as usefulness, he could have better scaling and health for sure. His damage could be a little bit better. His attack speed is okay. His aura is the main reason why he's so high, and his neutral theme is also another reason why he was moved up to this ranking, but still needs some improvement going forward. Coming in at number 5, we have CUPID CARTMAN. CUPID CARTMAN is another one of my favorite cards that's been added to the game, primarily because he has the best death animation or death voice pack in this entire game. If you haven't heard it, you're missing out. It's amazing. Just him as a card, it's just hilarious to have Cupid Cartman on the field. It's also nice that he can be played with another Cartman because he's a figment of Cartman's imagination. Therefore, he doesn't count as an actual Cartman card. But he will be showcased as a Cartman card when I make and redo my Best of Cartman video here later in the week. But he comes in at number 5, primarily because he's flying, which is very nice. Same as Bounty Hunter Kyle, but he scales better than Bounty Hunter Kyle does. He does scale pretty well for most rare range units. His range, though, is his biggest weakness at 2. It is the shortest range, I believe, out of any range unit. It almost feels like he's not even a range unit, but because he's flying, helps him in that regard, at least, to be able to survive more. He doesn't have any kind of special ability, which then hurts him a little bit. But he does have good, again, health and damage scaling for his level, and can actually do a good amount of damage to a lot of the flying units that you're going to be encountering a lot within this game. Someone like Terrence Mephisto. Maybe Bounty Hunter Kyle going forward will be more rampantly used. And there's going to be more flying units added at some point. Imp Tweak will eventually come into this game. He is a flying unit. I don't know when he's going to come out, but that will happen. But I like Cupid Cartman a lot. I'm not trying to just up his value because I like him more, but he is still useful, and he is a better flying ranged unit than Bounty Hunter Kyle in my opinion, which is why he's higher up on the list. Coming in at number 4 is PC Principal. Now, before his update that was fairly recent, maybe 3 or 4 balance changes ago, they buffed PC Principal's animation speed, or at least his attack speed, and then because of that, has now hyped him up the list quite a bit more than he probably would have if that buff hadn't have happened for him. He does have good health scaling for a tank card, and he has pretty decent damage. But then his knockback can be both a great use and a punisher at the same time, because sometimes you can end up pushing an enemy unit right towards your new kid, and you may not be ready to defend it quite yet. But the pushing is very nice. He's got a fairly low energy cost, especially for a tank card at 4. And with good health scaling and pretty decent damage scaling for a tank card, really makes PC Principal, I think, undervalued, including myself. I don't have him leveled as high as some people have, but I've seen PC Principal make a pretty rampant showing in the Legendary Arena lately, because I think he's much more valuable of a card than some of the other tank cards right now within the game, even some of the own tank cards within the current theme that he's in within Neutral Theme. So I think PC Principal needs to get a little bit more love and more respect, and he's definitely going to be higher up on this list because of the fact of his low energy cost as a tank card, the fact that his animation is a little bit better and much faster. He's got good scaling in both health and damage for a tank card. I just think all bodes in his favor for PC Principal being higher up on this list. At number 3, which might be a surprise to all of you because if you guys watch my channel very much, you know how much I love Medusa BEBE, but Medusa BEBE is number 3. And the reason why she's a little bit further down, I'll explain here in a second with the card that jumped her. But Medusa BEBE has probably fallen from grace primarily because her attack speed is so bad, which it didn't get worse, it's just been the same. But her health was really, really awesome at the beginning. She had a crapload of health and still does have a crapload of health for a range card. In fact, she has more health than some fighter cards at max level, which is insane. And even her scaling is better than some fighter cards at her even lower level. But because Medusa BEBE doesn't have extremely good damage potential because of her slow attack speed, it makes her ability a little bit undervalued, a little bit weaker, even though she will kill an enemy and turn him into a snake, and that snake will poison an enemy unit and do extra damage through the poisoning, which is very nice. But again, her low attack speed really hinders Medusa BEBE. I wish they would buff it a little bit. I don't think she needs any real tweak to her other than a mild boost to attack speed. That would also then run the risk of making Medusa BEBE maybe slightly overpowered, in my opinion, just because of how the rest of her stacking goes with her damage output, her survivability with her insane amount of health, and her ability is actually very strong, but it's her attack speed that weakens her that makes the other number 2 higher than her. But overall, Medusa BEBE is still a pretty solid card, not the worst legendary in the game, not the best anymore. At one point, I thought she was the best, very much so, for a while. But then, of course, Mecha Timmy dethroned her very quickly and very rapidly throughout the course of this game. But Medusa BEBE, definitely a high card on this list. Coming in number 2, just above Medusa BEBE, is Buccaneer BEBE. Now, this one might have been a shocker for a lot of you, including myself, because I very much undervalued Buccaneer BEBE for quite a while as I've been playing this game. but she scales extremely well. Her ability is undervalued. Even in PvP, it's still useful. When she kills an enemy, it increases her attack, which scales pretty well. I've seen level 5 Buccaneer Bebes get, I think, plus 23 or plus 24 damage with a kill. Just think of, I mean, her attack speed's not great, but just think of that. You get 24 plus damage each time you kill something. You get a swarm unit out there or something that she can kill very easily. I mean, I've seen her almost take a bar by herself. She's pretty tanky as well for a range card. Not as tanky as Medusa Bebe, because there is not a range card as tanky as Medusa Bebe is, but she does scale better with health than some other range cards. Her attack is okay. It could be better. Her damage is not that great unless she's able to get her ability to rank up and get her to be stronger. But at first I kept thinking Buccaneer Bebe was only a PvE card, wasn't very useful for PvP, but as people have been leveling her secretly in the background, and I've been climbing up, or staying in the mid-tier of Legendary Arena, I've been seeing a lot of level 4s and a lot of level 5 Buccaneer Bebes, and has really changed my mindset for her. She is a much stronger card than I originally gave her credit for, and I think that some of the things that I just mentioned are a big reason because of that. And, I mean, if you haven't faced a level 5 Buccaneer Bebe, and until you do, you won't truly understand how strong she really is, and how undervalued she really is. But when that time comes for you, you'll be humbled, just like I am, with how strong she actually is. And coming in at number 1, probably not a surprise to anybody, it's Robo Bebe, and it's not because Robo Bebe is the only common card within the game. Surprisingly, she's the only one. But she is by far the strongest. In fact, many consider her to be the strongest PvP card in the game right now. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I still think Mecha Timmy is stronger than her and more annoying to deal with than her, because she's much more easily counterable than he is, or you have to waste, basically use a cancel spell to kill him off. But Robo Bebe, because of her ability where she kills an enemy and her attack speed increases, for the first 3 enemies that she kills, she will get that attack speed increase. It will also boost her movement speed as well, and it is devastating. And since so many people use swarm units within PvP, it makes Robo Bebe a phenomenal counter card for swarm. Pigeons, rats, gnomes, anything like that. And then now you've got a relatively beefy, tanky range unit, not the greatest in health out of some of the other range units that are out there, but a low cost of 3 energy. She can counter a lot of swarm or a lot of just units that have been whittled down, and then once that happens, she has enough range to stay out of zap damage at 4 range, because I believe zap damage is 3.75 range, so she's not going to get zapped, and she's just going to poke away at a new kid or just do devastating damage at a little bit further range than some of the other range cards even mentioned on this list. I think Robo Bebe is definitely in a kind of a tier of her own right now with these other new cards that have been added to the game. Not the best card in the game, I'm not saying that, but she is definitely one of the top 5 or 6 cards within the game without question. I don't think many people will debate that, and if they do, I would really like to see why she's not in that list and have some really good reasons as to why. But she's definitely the best new card that's been added to the game so far out of the 10 cards, and that's pretty much it. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this top 10. Let me know down in the comment section down below what you think, and if you agree or disagree with the top 10 list that I came up with for these new cards. Surprising that there's only been just 10 cards added. It feels like there's been more as this game has gone along, or it feels like there's maybe been less. I don't really know, but I was surprised to see there was exactly 10 cards. I was like, now I got to do this top 10 list for you guys, since a lot of you have really enjoyed these top 10 videos. Again, a lot of other content coming on later in the week. We are definitely going to redo the best of CARTMAN. That will happen here before the end of the week. There is some other, another showdown will be coming out. I will not spoil what that showdown is going to be, but there will be one more at some point in the week, and maybe another video or two as well with the event or something like that. But until next time, guys, my name is Drewzy.